After more than 4 weeks of testimony, dozens of witnesses, emotional evidence, and a prosecution determined to prove that Lindsay Clancy planned the deaths of her 3 children, the courtroom has finally reached a turning point. The prosecution has rested its case. And now, for the first time, the defense is getting its chance to tell the jury what it says was really happening inside Lindsay Clancy's mind. Before we get into what the defense revealed, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Crime Chronicles, and click the bell icon so you don't miss the next update. For weeks, prosecutors built their case around one central idea: Lindsay knew what she was doing. They presented more than 70 witnesses, including her husband Patrick, first responders, medical professionals, psychiatric clinicians, friends, co-workers, and investigators. They argued that Lindsay deliberately killed Cora, Dawson, and Callan before attempting to take her own life. But on August 17th, the prosecution's final witness, digital forensics expert Ian Whiffen, brought the first phase of the trial to an end. His testimony focused on Lindsay's phone and Apple Watch data from the weeks leading up to the deaths. Jurors heard about her internet searches, communications, physical activity, and health information recorded by her devices. Some of the searches involved depression, suicide, medication side effects, and postpartum psychosis. And then came something particularly important for the defense. A note found on Lindsay's phone was brought up during questioning. In it, Lindsay wrote that her prescription medications had stole my motherhood and my life. The defense is using statements like this to support its argument that Lindsay believed something was seriously wrong with her mind and that her medications were part of the problem. But now, the defense has to do more than say Lindsay was struggling. It has to convince the jury that her mental illness was so severe that she should not be held criminally responsible for the deaths. And this is where the testimony of Lindsay's mother and sister became extremely important. Her mother, Paula Musgrove, took the stand and described what she says was a dramatic change in her daughter beginning around October 2022. According to Musgrove, Lindsay became increasingly anxious, paranoid, and frightened. She lost weight, struggled to be alone, and became increasingly dependent on her family. But there was something even more disturbing. Musgrove testified that Lindsay had expressed thoughts about harming her own children and had told her that she believed her prescribed medications were affecting or destroying her mind. Her sister, Allison Osga, also testified about Lindsay's decline. She said Lindsay had experienced suicidal thoughts for about a month before the killings, and that by Thanksgiving she appeared to have very little energy. Think about what that means for the defense's argument. They're asking the jury to look beyond the final day and examine the months leading up to it. They want the jury to see a woman who wasn't suddenly transformed on January 24th, 2023, but someone whose mental health had been deteriorating for months while repeatedly struggling to get help. But prosecutors are expected to challenge that interpretation, because the same evidence can tell 2 very different stories. The defense sees the searches about psychosis, suicide, and medication as evidence of someone desperately trying to understand what was happening to her. The prosecution sees some of those actions as evidence that Lindsay was capable of researching, thinking, and making deliberate decisions. And that brings us to the biggest question of the entire trial. Can a person appear organized, communicate with others, and carry out a series of actions while still experiencing a severe psychotic disorder? The defense says yes. And now it intends to bring experts into court to explain exactly what Lindsay's mental state may have been at the time. So, after 4 weeks of hearing the prosecution's version of Lindsay Clancy, the jury is finally hearing the other side. But this is only the beginning of the defense case, because the next witnesses could reveal much more about Lindsay's psychiatric treatment, the medications she was taking, her alleged postpartum psychosis, and whether the mental health system failed to recognize just how dangerous her deterioration had become. And as the defense begins to build its case, one question hangs over everything. Was Lindsay Clancy making calculated decisions, or was a severely disturbed mind making decisions for her? What do you think? Could someone appear organized on the outside while being completely disconnected from reality on the inside? And if the warning signs were there months before the tragedy, should someone have recognized how serious they were? Tell me your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to Crime Chronicles, because in the next part, we'll go deeper into the defense's mental health argument and the testimony that could determine Lindsay Clancy's fate.